Well, hey there, and welcome to this edition of B.E.P Talks, where we bring you fascinating people from all over the world doing fascinating things. They're at all different stages of career and life, have all different expertise, but what they all have one thing is the generosity to share their story. Everybody has a story and they're all worth hearing. So here at B.E.P Talks, it's about sharing beliefs, experiences, and passions. And of course, today, no exception to the rule. We have a fascinating guest today. Um, there are so many dimensions to today's guest. I really just kind of don't know where to start. I will say that Stephanie is a former U.S. diplomat. We're not going to talk too much about that. She's an executive coach and a speaker. She is the host of an international immersive experience and founder of The Servant Edge. I'm reading this because I want to make sure I get all the names right. Stephanie has actually gone from Silicon Valley to the mountains of Chile, the savannas of Africa. That's quite a trip. That's a lot of story to share. So, with no further ado, please welcome today's guest, Stephanie Mikulasek. Hey
Thank you.
there, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining us today on B.E.P Talks.
It's an honor, Beth. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure, truly, truly. Something that I read a lot about you. As I said, your bio is so multidimensional. It's kind of hard to know where to begin. We never know where we're going to go. We never know where we're going to end, but it's going to be a fun journey, kind of like your journey from Silicon Valley to the mountains of Chile and to the savannas of Africa. What does all of that, how do you interpret that? How should
Oh,
we interpret that?
she's got sand in her shoes would be what my mother would say.
And Carlos is on the bottom of her feet. It's a long journey.
It's a long journey. It is, and actually I should have started that with my sojourn to Zimbabwe back in the mid 90s. Yeah. I I had actually had a chance to go get a master's in world religions and cultures. I grew up in a Christian home and I wanted to understand about other religions and how they thought and saw the world. And so I started my journey actually living very unique opportunity with the Lakota people on Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And it was the first time that I saw a completely different culture and way of living that was right here in our beautiful country. And that led to a scholarship to Germany, which was the first time I had a passport. Why not go to Europe? I was 25 years old, threw on a backpack and headed out. And then I had a professor in my master's program who, no joke, imagine the disheveled graying hair and the leather satchel with the papers falling on the ground as he's running past me and he stops. And no joke, we used to follow him and pick up papers and hand them to him. And no joke, he stops. His name is Dr. Snook, long past, God bless his soul. And he said, Stephanie, I'm taking a group to Zimbabwe and I want you to be part of it. And I said, yes, of course I'm going to go. And Beth, I had no idea where Zimbabwe was. I had no idea. And so what I did is I signed up not just for a quarter, we were on a quarter system. I decided to stay for 6 months and write my master's thesis over there.
Oh.
So I flew out in December, and the next thing I knew, it began a 5-year relationship with a country that I still consider holding a part of my heart and home.
Oh, what was it that was so special about Zimbabwe?
It sounds cliche, but truly it was the people. I have never met to this day in all the 60 some countries that I've traveled in, worked in, lived in, been in, I've never met people like the Zimbabweans that I met all those years ago over the course of, oh goodness, I don't know how many immersion experiences that I used to host for different people, whether they were students or professionals trying to figure out this beautiful place. But there is a sincere generosity of spirit. In fact, in the language, when you greet someone, you are literally saying, how are you? I am okay if you are okay. And the
Oh,
answer, I must what to say, is, I am okay, therefore you are okay. So there's this deep sense of community and relationship that I have truly never witnessed quite like that. It's a beautiful thing, and the country is absolutely gorgeous.
It's that's a very lovely exchange of feeling and commitment and not making it all about me.
That's right.
Like I'm fine, you're fine, we're both fine, it's all good. That's really quite lovely. Is that so that's your favorite country? You said 60 countries that you've been to?
Yeah, to say favorites, that's sort of like asking which child's your favorite. I'd say it's one of my many, many favorites. I think it holds a special place because it was my first sub-Saharan African country that I spent time
Mm-hmm.
in. But every country that I've traveled, worked, or lived in offers something to teach us, which is frankly why I do immersion programs now. It, there is there is a value in going into a different environment, experiencing the uncomfortable, right? That moment when nothing is the way it quote should be, right? Even knowing what the name of a grocery store is, or how do you say where's the bathroom, or any of those basic things, right? There is something so crucial for us as humans to go through those, what I call dissonant growth points, where we have to sit in that this isn't comfortable. How do I manage this? And what happens after that when you grow from that? And I've experienced that literally in every country, whether it was Afghanistan or Panama or Tanzania or Malawi or Germany. All of them offer something.
What was it that brought you to all of those different locations?
Yeah, so great question. So my foray into Zimbabwe, of course, was through graduate school.
Right.
And then from there, I traveled quite extensively in Southern Africa. So I spent quite a bit of time in South Africa, for example. And then I joined the Department of State as a U.S. diplomat. And that, of course, you sign up and it's sort of like the military, right? You're ready to go, bags are packed. And so through that career, both with Department of State and USAID, I managed to spend quite a bit of time on multiple different continents for work and living in
Yeah.
many of those places. And then just my own interest and passion to see the world. I really was that kid who imagined, never had a passport till I was 25. But I used to imagine what it would be like
Yeah.
to, go someplace that different. And
Yeah.
leaving my own home state probably wasn't enough.
Yeah. So was Dorothy correct? Is it true that there is no place like home?
Hmm. Yes and no. And I'll say it this way. My kids had to move a lot. I have two daughters, and we used to laugh that we knew we were home when I was there, when the green carpet was there. I have this green Persian carpet, and when a couple of the particular pictures were hanging on the wall. And as soon as they saw those, they knew we were home. And then there came a time when they both said, and they're both now at the stage where they don't have any interest in ever traveling extensively again. Um, but I think home is, I've learned over the years, is much more of an emotional connection than necessarily a physical location. It's not for everybody, but at least for me.
It's true. Home is where your heart is,
Yes.
wherever that might be, whenever it might be there. So, a very important question then. You said you have two daughters. Which one do you like better?
Oh my goodness. Yes,
Teasing. I'm
once
totally
again.
teasing.
Oh my goodness.
I'm totally, totally teasing. I just wanted to see what your response would be. So, you ask, I read in your bio, you ask the age-old question, can't we all get along? Can we? Why don't we? Why aren't we? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you for this. In 2004, I was in Puebla, Mexico, which is just about an hour or two south of Mexico City. I was studying Spanish for an onward assignment to Santiago, Chile. And I had one of those restless nights when you can't sleep. My oldest daughter was about a year and a half old, and I should be sleeping when she's sleeping, right? And I couldn't sleep. So I was up most of the night making countless cups of tea, and I was writing. And it was almost like something just had to be born, right? It was the strangest feeling. And it was that night, after about 3, 4 hours, that I wrote down the following, which is my mission is to build bridges of understanding and compassion while tearing down walls of prejudice and fear.
Wow.
I have dedicated my life, both personally and professionally, to building bridges of understanding and compassion. I believe strongly that when we can set down whatever visceral or um, strong opinion we might have, just to listen, to
Mm,
genuinely listen to another. And in fact, we teach at the Servant Edge, we teach how to listen. We are amazed at when we get to our essential humanness, we're all craving community. We're all craving belonging. We're all creating a sense of wanting
yeah,
what's best for our families. If we can go back to that point, I do believe it's possible. I
yeah,
think right now we're struggling with that, but I do think it's possible.
right. So I believe that we are all so much more alike than we are different. But we focus on what I call majoring in the minors. We focus on the smaller things that differentiate us, which should be celebrated, honored, respected.
Yes.
Why do we make, or do we? I don't want to assume this. You're the expert here. Do we assume that things that make us different are wrong just because they're different?
Mhm. Well, you're tapping into a fascinating field that I've been studying for a long time. And it has to do with a couple of topics. One is adult development theory, and the other is intercultural competency. I'm not going to bore your listeners with the details in that space, but suffice it to say that one of the challenges we have, particularly here, I think in the United States and elsewhere, this isn't just a US problem, is that to your point, we do sometimes associate different
Mm,
with wrong.
wrong.
And one of the areas that we focus on in some of the work we do at the Servant Edge is reinterpreting that. So when we take people, for example, I'm planning a women's leadership experience right now to Guatemala for this fall, and then another excursion into Costa Rica, and so forth, so on. One of the things that we do is when the disruption happens, which is they're driving on the wrong side of the road, or, well,
Mm,
that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to wait your turn, or you're supposed, just these basic things, right? We do this every day when we're driving. We go to a different city and they don't drive the way that we drive back home. We, we can retrain ourselves to look at those moments of, if you will, dissonance, or you did it wrong, to reframe our minds and say, how interesting is that? Let's get curious about that. I didn't realize that I had a norm about how you're supposed to drive on a street like this, right?
right, right.
So it is possible. We just
It
have to
is.
be intentional about it.
Right. And I think that when it comes down to basics, kind of survival, the differences become, they're no longer black and white, they're any shade of gray until they kind of just dissipate. And when we need each other, we can get along.
Hmm.
When we choose
Mhm.
to get along, we can.
It is sometimes that simple.
Yeah.
It is much easier to keep ourselves in some sort, and I'm going to say this word broadly, in some sort of a victim stance, right? It's not my fault.
Mm,
Someone else did this to me. It's very easy to fall into that space, which there might be a level of truth to that. The challenge is if we stay there, and or conversely, we make ourselves into almost like a villain, or a hero. I'll save the day. Or um, when we stay in that space, we keep ourselves caught in a never-ending loop. With an intentional moment of pause and say, wait a second, okay, maybe this did happen to me. This is true. And I can still take action that's different moving forward. I can still look at someone who might live in a different environment or have a different opinion than I do about whatever it is. And maybe it's just a different opinion. Maybe it's not right or wrong or better or worse. What would it be like just to even imagine that might be possible? That's where we start.
to where we start. And it sounds so easy. So, are we putting too much energy into resisting how easy that really could be?
I think so.
We're
I think
trying so hard not to get along.
in some ways it feels that way,
It
right?
does, doesn't it?
It really does.
So sad.
It is very sad because to your earlier comment, We are so similar. For example, many of your listeners are probably Americans and or maybe from
Yeah,
other countries.
I
And
would guess. Yeah.
and we're all Americans and we all have different opinions and different backgrounds and different colors of skin and identities or whatever it is. Who cares how we define ourselves? But at the core, we're humans that
Yeah.
are in a place that we want to work together and just learn how to get along better. And so
Yeah.
that's a lot of what we do is teach basic human essential skills in that space.
You mentioned the servant edge. Is that what the servant edge is? You mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit more about that, please.
sure. The Servant Edge is a servant transformational leadership development company that, in this crazy context of technology saturation and AIs accelerating
Yeah.
everything, it's really a return back to, if you will, learning how to use our human intelligence, learning our human centered nature and how to re engage with that. So, part of that are immersion programs that we offer. Part of that is leadership development training, which is, I even hesitate to use the word training there because it really is just learning and development. Part of that's public speaking, part of that's coaching, helping individuals, teams, and organizations find ways to find common ground, re-engage, reconnect, relearn how to coordinate and collaborate, relearn how to innovate together, how to move themselves from here to where they want to go, get unstuck.
Mm.
And funny enough, a lot of times that's just it's learning how we want to engage again. It's learning
Yeah.
how to make those connections.
And I think that there are a lot of people, I've met a few, that are just happy being unhappy or living in their own misery kind of thing. And what I always call, I said it earlier, majoring in the minors. And is it just easier to be a victim than to be accountable for your own happiness?
It's always easier to blame someone else for our problems.
Yeah.
I think truly one of the differentiators between people is, yes, it's not to minimize bad stuff happens. There have been legacy bad stuff that's happened.
Mm,
That is absolutely true. And we today have a choice of how we want to move forward
mm.
and whether or not we want to take responsibility for what we're going to do. And some of that may be, hey, I am really happy and content with just doing what I'm doing. That's enough.
That's okay.
Wonderful. Absolutely. It's owning it though. It's owning it and saying, what can I do? And then the second question is, and how can I make another person's life better? We are innately born, I believe this strongly, to share and to give back. And when something good happens, what's the first thing you do, Beth, when you see a great movie? We tell someone about it.
recommend it. You share, yeah, you
Yeah,
share the experience. Yeah.
exactly. You want to go tell someone, you want to tell your partner or your kid or your friend, oh, I just saw this great movie. You should really see it. Let me tell you all about it, right? We are we are innately born to do that. We want to share. We want
Yeah.
to give other people those. Tap back into that again. I was a waitress for a long time. That's how I got through school. And I'll never forget one day I had this person came in. I was doing a breakfast shift and I had dinner shifts, breakfast shift. I had this gentleman come in. He came in every Saturday morning for a year, right? And one day he stopped and he looked at me and he said, he was a very nice fellow and probably double my age. And he said, I just want you to know your smile here every Saturday morning is why I came in and you made a difference in my life this year.
Oh, isn't that, see, something so simple as that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it starts.
You know, I'm a friendly person. I have no problem being approached. I have no problem like looking at someone and trying to assess, and something just as simple as like a Mona Lisa smile. It's really not that. But you see the way people respond. And I've had people say to me, I talk to so many strangers. And I said, but I connect with them, and you never know the last time someone may have been kind to them. You don't know what they go home to. Do they go home to anybody? Do they have anybody who cares? So even something as simple and easy to do, a gesture, a grin, a nod, um, can make such a difference. So the simple little things. So we can all get along. We just have to stop trying not to. Is, and I have to say, when you were talking about the gentleman who came in every Saturday morning for breakfast because of your smile, I had in my notes, I can show them to you. Look at her picture. Look at her picture, full of joy. There is
Oh.
something so obvious in the expression on your face. It's peace, it's
Mm.
calm, it's understanding, it's rare, it's lovely, it's evident. And you saw that. I had that on my little notes. Look at her picture. Can you see it?
I see it.
Look at her picture, full of joy.
Oh.
That is you. You obviously have led an extraordinary life. You've been to 60 countries. You're the mom of two. Thank you for your service to the country and to all of us. If you could choose to do anything that could make a difference on the most number of people, kind of just by wishing it to be, what would that be?
Hmm. I spent quite a bit of time thinking about that question earlier
Really?
this
Oh,
year and thinking, or rather 2025, and thinking about how can I use my gifts and my talents and my skills to to help make the world a better place, to shorthand it, right? And what I came to is that I believe each one of us, wherever we are and whatever we're doing, has something to contribute. My gift happens to be a skill at not only engaging with another person and with people, whether I'm coaching them or listening or however that might be, but it's giving them an opportunity to see the world. Nothing makes me more sad than when I hear someone talk about a place outside the country or even in the country with a negative a negative comment without really knowing anything about it. I'm sad because what I see is someone who's missing an opportunity to really get to know themselves, not just the
mm,
place they're going, but themselves. If I could give one gift to every single American, it would be to the gift of going to another country that they've never been to, they have no connection to, and allow them to engage meaningfully with those people in that land, in that culture, with the myriad that happens and complexities and interesting things, where they have that aha moment, where suddenly they say, and this has happened to me, it's what feeds my soul. When they look at me and they say, "Oh, I had no idea.
yeah, yeah.
I had no idea." And it's usually, Beth, about themselves. That's the beauty of travel. It's not about whether or not you're going to know the culture of Egypt or Zimbabwe or Tanzania or Panama or wherever else you were talking about. It's actually, you get to know who you are and you take that back. And that
Mm,
gift keeps on giving.
giving. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to hazard to guess that you don't have to cross an ocean to do that,
No,
that you can do it very close to home.
yes,
Sadly, maybe even in your own home,
that's right. That's right.
that kindness, gentle thing. Going back to tell me about what the international immersive experiences are all about.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So these are game-changing immersion experiences where we take individuals or groups. Sometimes we have a team, a corporate team who wants to join us, but most of the time they're individuals. Generally speaking, these are folks who are at some pivot point in their lives or they're stuck and they need a reboot. They're looking for some kind of a renewal. They're caught in a quandary of relationship or a work situation or they don't know where to go next, right? We all have stuck moments. I don't know another human who doesn't have a stuck moment.
Of course.
And so what we provide through the international immersion experiences are highly curated, very local containers through which you're going to experience something that you cannot get on your own. We are not tourism company. We're not a tourist company. Not to say that what they do is not a good thing, but that's not who we are. We're taking people through an experience where they're going to meet local game changers, innovators, and change makers taking a look at who these folks are and how they're doing what they're doing, immersing in the culture, and having facilitated conversations. So there's group coaching, individual conversations, there's reflection time, processing what's happening, what's showing up for me, what's occurring. And then we funnel through this whatever period of time. Sometimes they're just a few days, sometimes they're a
Mhm.
couple weeks, depending on where we're going. They're powerful times.
It's a great reality show. Great reality TV show that you should be the star of. You know, it's so refreshing to meet someone like you because it is easy. I'm not a cynical person, but it's easy to have cynical moments, cynical thoughts, um, kind of because we're surrounded by them. Um, so we can choose to distance ourselves from certain people, I would suppose. It's so refreshing to know that there's someone like yourself who is so experienced globally and in service to the United States of America as a diplomat, that has had so many unique and wonderful, I hazard to guess, experiences. Just to know one person like you is a blessing, and it gives hope, and it says that it can become contagious. And I hope that's what a lot of people are getting out of hearing you today on BEP Talks. And there's information below on how you can be in touch with someone as grand as Stephanie. And I mean that so sincerely, someone as, and truly humble. You're so honest and humble, and how you can work with her, whether it's through the service servant edge or whether it's through the international immersive experience that she was just speaking about, or just to have a conversation with. I feel like my blood pressure has come down over the last 30 minutes. I do, and I mean that in the best possible way. I feel like my heart's not beating as fast. I get so excited, but you have such a demeanor about you, and I mean that in the best way possible. And it's good to know that someone like you is out there because you have two daughters, so there's a good chance you've multiplied all the goodness. So you need to know someone like Stephanie Mikulasek, and here you now you know her. You know her. We have never spoken before. This is just an off the cuff conversation like we always have on BEP Talks, which is what I love about it most. You need to be in touch, and the information to be in touch with Stephanie is below. And as I said at the beginning, there is so much dimension to your story, Stephanie. I really didn't know where to begin or what to um, concentrate on. So I wanted to touch on just a couple of the little points that I found out about you, because there is so much that I still want to learn about you. And I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share your story, but to share yourself
Oh,
on today's BEP Talk. No, you're unique. We're all unique. I get that, but no, there's something, you have a very special quality about you, and it's lovely to see. And we talk about rebooting. You use that word. Can I suggest that every morning when we're brave enough to put our feet back on the floor for the start of another day, which we might not know what's ahead of, that's a reboot opportunity. With every sunrise is an opportunity to be a better you than you were yesterday, or to help someone else become a better version of themselves. And it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to go to Zimbabwe. You can go to the grocery store. You can do simple little things. You can, smile at somebody. Say, I walk my dog every morning and it amazes, and you kind of see the same people and, good morning, hello, how are you? And, pet the dogs and share a little this and that. And there are some people that you pass every day, and I continue to say, good morning, and no response. But I'm not going to stop. You give me so much hope. I'm going to keep doing it. And eventually one of them is going to say, good morning. And my sister always says, oh, Beth, it's because they have ear pods in. They're not hearing you. They're not ignoring you. I go, no, I get that possibility. But when you walk past someone, you just go, some sort of an acknowledgement. Acknowledge the people around you is, I guess, what I'm trying to say, because you never know who can make a difference in your life. You, Miss Stephanie Mikulasek, has made a difference in my life today. And I'm sure for everybody listening to BEP Talks. What this proves about BEP Talks We all have a story. It doesn't have to be as multidimensional as Stephanie's, but we all have a story. We all have experiences, and they are all worth sharing. And we want to hear them. We want to hear your beliefs, your experiences, your passions, and simply share them in an off the cuff conversation like I just had with my new friend, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I can't wish you enough goodwill and that a boomerang effect for all that you've put out there. It comes back to you and your daughters in abundance. In
Oh, it's an
abundance.
honor, Beth. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you
Such
so
a
much.
pleasure to get to know you, and I hope that we will. Well, we'll make a point of it. That's
Yeah,
what we can do. We
I
can
love
make
it.
those decisions. So, as we always say on BEP Talks, your story matters. It can make a difference. Um, I always end by saying, may the best always be yet to come, because I believe we can determine that it can be always getting better. So when you put your feet, when you have the courage to close your eyes tonight and the strength to put your feet on the floor tomorrow to start another, to reboot, make it a great experience for yourself and for at least one other person. So, oh, you brought out the philosopher in me. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. So, as I always say, again, may the best always be yet to come. And until we talk again, bye for now.